Joining us now, Bishop E.W. Jackson. He ran for lieutenant governor in 2013, was mostly abandoned by the establishment Republican Party of Virginia, including me, but now we made up and we're friends. Also, he is a likely, I say that with a capital L, a likely candidate for U.S. Senate in 2018. One Republican already in that race against Tim Kaine, that is Corey Stewart. He's the favorite. Also, House of Delegates member Nick Freitas flirting with the idea of running. Big advance coming up the Omni next weekend, I believe, December 8th and 9th. I'm going to have a suite there with Martha Benetti. You come and join us Friday night if you're going to go. Joining us now, E.W. Jackson. Good to have you with us, E.W.
Well, as always, great to be with you, John. Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving and looking forward to a Merry Christmas. Hope you have one and all your audience does as well. So, a lot going on, isn't there? Because I think people have figured out that we have a vacant Senate seat. There's nobody at home. And so somebody is going to have to actually go to the United States Senate and represent the people of Virginia, because the guy who's in there right now is simply not doing it.
Okay, well, they're going to vote against this tax cut. Look, I got an email from Mark Warner yesterday, and I voted for Mark and endorsed him in 2014, EW, as you know. I look at this email, and I can't believe it. The first thing he says is it's going to blow a hole in the debt. Now, when President Obama got in, the debt was $8 trillion. Mark Warner voted for every single spending cap busting increase known to man. When Obama got out, it was $20 trillion. So it went from $8 trillion to $20 trillion. And now Mark Warner saying that another $1.1 trillion over a 10-year period is going to be economic Armageddon for America. How does this math work?
When Democrats start complaining about the deficit and debt, you know you've gone down the rabbit hole. I mean, these folks have never cared about spending. They've never cared about debt. They've never cared about the budget. And now all of a sudden they're concerned. I mean, it's a joke. The best thing we can do for our economy right now, because they spent us into debt that generations could have to pay for, the best thing we could do for the economy right now, this is what the president is doing, is get it growing. Because when the economy is growing, revenues go up, debt goes down, we can work on the deficit, but you couldn't do that with 1% growth for the last 8 years. So they just need to get on board. They're not going to do it. They're confirmed leftists now. They just don't understand the economy, and so we just might as well leave them behind and get some people elected in the Senate who are going to support the president's agenda.
Here's my position on this, because I look at this tax bill, and there's been a lot of lies going out. One of them is that it's not a middle-class tax cut. We spent 5 hours yesterday at the office running the numbers with my wife, who's got a finance degree, and she did all the spreadsheets. And if you make under $150,000 with a family, you are going to pay less money, except if you're in the percentage of people that have a very expensive home with a very big mortgage and high out-of-pocket insurance cost for health, and you itemize, then you could pay more. But that's maybe 12% of people. If you're making $90,000 gross income with a family of four, you're going to save $2,300. That's $200 a month. If you're making $60,000 with a family of four, you're going to save $1,410. That's $115 a month. If you're a family of three with a $60,000 income, you're going to save $1,000. And if you're a family of three with a $90,000 income gross, you're going to save $2,000. How is this not a tax cut for the middle class? What are they talking about?
Well, here's the bottom line for them. They simply don't get the fundamental principle that the money people earn belongs to them. It doesn't belong to the government. And there's this attitude among Democrats that somehow the government is doing us a favor by allowing us to keep some money that really belongs to them, and it's quite the opposite. The American people should keep as much of their money as possible in order to keep our government financed, to do the things that are constitutionally required, because that's what the more money government takes, the less the economy grows, the less expendable income people have, and the worse it gets for everybody. And the more you leave in the hands of the American people, the better the economy does, the more expendable income people have, the more people invest. I mean, look, we're already experiencing it, and I'm just looking forward to, frankly, a 4 or 5% growth rate during at least some of this president's term, right here in this first term. If they get this tax cut through, I predict the economy will start growing probably at 4% plus.
If we do that, wages will go up, jobs will go up. Companies now with a 20% tax rate instead of 35%, we become competitive. They stop moving their manufacturing plants to Ireland and Mexico and Vietnam. They stay in the U.S. Repatriation, that isn't even talked about.
Yes.
That's trillions of dollars. And the way they've done that is brilliant. I thought they were going to give a tax holiday. What Gary Cohn did, and he explained it to me one-on-one, I have to say, because I couldn't figure it out. And I asked him for a meeting. He explained it to me brilliantly. And he said, we have made it so that regardless of where you make the money, you're going to have to pay U.S. taxes. So if you want to park your money in China, you're still going to have to pay U.S. taxes. So why would you do that? Okay? So that made a lot of sense to me. That money's coming back. That's trillions of dollars. And the economy is going to grow. This is the deregulation president of all time. We grow at 4.5%. And over a 10-year period, we're going to cut the deficit by $5 trillion minimum, plus wages go up. So you say to yourself, why are the Democrats so opposed to this? Why are they throwing shade on it? Why are they lying about it? You know why, EW? They're scared to death. If this passes, their chance to regain power wanes. That's why they're lying about it. Because if this economy grows, like you say, at 4.5%, Trump's going to win again. The Republicans are going to keep the House. The Republicans are going to gain seats in the Senate. And their chance at power goes away. So it's power ahead of economic prosperity for the country. Is that sick or what?
Well, but that's the way they think. For them, John, it is only about power. It's not about the best interests of the American people. It's about what keeps them in power. And I'll tell you something, Republicans, if we ever get a hold of the notion that if you just serve the American people and do what is best for them, for their families, their economy, their communities, and just get government out of it to the fullest extent possible and let the American people just rise to the level that they will go to if they're uninhibited by a whole lot of unnecessary regulations, we'll have a booming economy and everybody will be much happier. That's what Republicans are supposed to stand for. We got to make sure that this tax cut passes. But the Democrats, they've completely lost touch with any semblance of serving people. They serve their own power now. That's why we got to get rid of Tim Kaine.
Okay, so when are you going to make a decision whether or not you're going to run for U.S. Senate?
Well, you keep saying when am I going to make a decision. I guess the real question is when am I going to let people know what decision I've made. And obviously this is now, we're coming to the end of November. Obviously, I've got to do something very, very soon. So within the next week or two, I will announce what that decision is.
Okay, within a week or two. Now, you're going to do the advance next week, right?
Yes, I am.
All right, so a week or two. Let's see, a week or two. Today is, I'm just trying to get this down.
You're counting.
A week or two.
Right. Let's put it this way. It won't likely be before the advance, but it will probably be shortly thereafter.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to you making that on our show one way or the other.
I promised you that you would be the first to know.
Look, I think you got a shot if you do run. I mean, you and Corey, and I'm convinced Freitas is getting in. I think Corey Stewart's a favorite, no question about it, but I wouldn't take you lightly. I did that once, and I got burned. I never get burned 2 times, EW. Never.
Yeah.
So,
Corey's the favorite right now, and I like Corey, and look, there's only one reason why, the primary reason, I should say, there's not only one reason, but the primary reason why I didn't support Corey was I just felt that Corey has a ceiling and limits in terms of his ability to get elected statewide. I think we've got to have a better candidate in there to have a shot, given what happened in the last election, to have a shot at winning statewide. So, we'll see how it all shakes out. I'm sure we're going to have a bevy of good candidates in the race, and then we'll let the Republicans of Virginia decide who's going to carry the banner.
Look, I think a competitive primary with yourself and Corey and Nick Freitas is going to be good for the Republican Party because we're going to get the issues flushed out. We're going to have debates. We're going to be able to get you guys on the various media outlets, and I think you get sharper going into the race with Tim Kaine, and he's going to be the heavy favorite going in. I'm not sure. Right now the Republicans, E.W. Jackson, they've lost 10 statewide races in a row in Virginia. So right now they're like the Cleveland Browns of politics. They can't win a game. Somebody's going to have to figure out how that math changes. And when you're losing Fairfax County by 150,000 votes a pop, the math becomes, look, it's easy. The math on this tax cut is easy. The math on beating Tim Kaine in 2018, that becomes hazy.
Well, I will say this, John. I wouldn't even contemplate getting into this race if I didn't see a pathway to victory. I'm past the point where I'm interested in some sort of symbolic gesture. Maybe there are others who are doing that. But for me, there's got to be a pathway to victory. So I think, running just because you want to run in this climate, I think is a waste of time and a waste of the voters' time. I think you got to know how you could win. And I think there is a way to win for a Republican to win in Virginia. But I think that Republican has to have special qualities and attributes and really be able to motivate the base in a major way. So, we'll see how it all shakes out.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to you making a decision here, E.W. Jackson, one way or the other. A couple other issues to go over. Roy Moore, Alabama. What do you think?
Well, look, I've said before, I'm troubled by all the allegations, but if I were living in Alabama right now, I would vote for him. The accusations are very, very old. I have an absolutely intense distrust of the Washington Post and the liberal media, and I've experienced their ability to manipulate people into telling a story that they want told rather than telling the truth, because I had it happen to me.
Yes.
I would vote for him right now and pray for him and hope that everything works out. I certainly don't want to see a liberal Democrat in the United States Senate. So it's still, for me, I'm troubled, but he would get my vote.
If you get to the U.S. Senate, what do you think about this $15 million hidden slush fund that congressmen are paying out for sexual allegations? Then they have confidentiality agreements, and no one knows who it is, taxpayer money. Don't you think that's a little egregious?
No wonder the reputation of the Congress is in the single digits in terms of people having confidence. It's really disgusting. I mean, look, if you're going to have those kinds of problems, and you shouldn't, but if you do, grown men shouldn't be having those problems, period. But if you do, pay for it yourself. Don't ask the taxpayers to finance your promiscuity and profligacy and abuse and harassment of women. I mean, that's unconscionable. They ought to end it. It ought to end immediately. There's just no place for that. Buy your own insurance or something. I mean, come on. This is why people don't have confidence in Congress, because they pull this kind of stuff, and you couldn't, nobody can do that in the private sector world. You can't go on a job and say, listen, if I misbehave, you guys take care of the responsibility for whatever costs are incurred. I mean, come on. So, yeah, it's got to end, and that's why you need people in the United States Senate and in Congress who are not going there to try to get along with the good old boy network, but are going there to really represent the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia. I
just got this text from Leslie in Virginia Beach who says, hey, John, Consumer Confidence Index, highest this month since November 2000. I don't hear the media talking about that statistic. Clearly, some people out there have confidence in the Trump administration. What do you say to that?
Listen, you look, all you got to do is look at the numbers. I mean, you look at the growth, you look at the stock markets, you look at the direction in which the economy is going, lower regulations, lowering taxes. I mean, what is there not to like? You may want to nitpick at the margins, but my goodness gracious, what a sea change we've got from the last 8 years. So, yeah, look, my confidence is up, and I would imagine everybody's is, and of course that helps the economy too. They don't give this president credit for all the great things that he's doing. And I'll tell you something, if I were to run, I would not run away from the president of the United States. He is the head of the party. He is the president of the country. And as far as I'm concerned, he is doing a great job. Now, look, I'm not President Trump. He has a different style than I have. I'm my own man. But I completely support the agenda that he has for the country.
E.W. Jackson, thanks for being with us. You want to follow him on Twitter? It's really easy, @E.W. Jackson.